Good evening. With it being 7 p.m., I call the Howell School District Board meeting to order. We'll have Pledge of Allegiance led by our Assistant Superintendent.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
Motion made by Sandy Ferguson, seconded by Chad Lane. By roll call.
Mr. Bean?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5-0. So thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mary Hendricks-Harris for some opening remarks and introduction.
Actually, I thought before we make some opening remarks, we would go ahead and do introductions. So, I am Mary Hendricks-Harris. I'm the superintendent here in Francis Howell.
Nicole Weitzel, Chief Academic Officer here in the Francis Howell School District.
Wade Steinoff, Assistant Superintendent in the Orchard Farm School District.
Greg Clemens-Smith, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment at Winslow.
Jen Waters, Assistant Superintendent, Fort Zumwalt, Curriculum and Instruction.
Danielle Tormala, Associate Superintendent, St. Charles School District.
I'm Travis Brock, I'm the Assistant Superintendent with the Afton School District, and I oversee the St. Louis CAPS program.
Kelly Pendleton, I'm the Assistant to the Superintendent for St. Charles School District.
Hi, I'm Jeff Marion, Superintendent, St. Charles School District.
I'm Josh Keene, President of the Board of Education for St. Charles.
Donna Towers, Vice President of the St. Charles School Board.
I'm Sherry Bickmeyer with the St. Charles School Board.
Charles Brazil, Assistant Superintendent, City of St. Charles Schools.
I'm Cheryl Graber, St. Charles City School District, and I'm over the Adult and Community Education Program.
I'm Bertie DeGray, Superintendent, Fort Zumwalt Schools.
John Callahan, a member of the St. Charles Schools. It's been a long day. Fort Zumwalt Schools.
Erica Powers, I'm a member of Fort Zumwalt School Board.
Craig Moore, member of Fort Zumwalt School Board.
I'm Kenny Bierman, I'm a member of the Orchard Farm School Board.
Tom Muzzy, Superintendent, Orchard Farm.
Sarah Bosick, I'm a member of the Orchard Farm School Board.
Steve Zabke, Orchard Farm School Board.
Dale Shaper, Director of Winsville Board of Education.
Barbara Fine, Vice President of the Winsville Board of Education.
Heather Rader, with the Director with the Winsville School Board of Education.
Michael Feinstein, Director, Winsville School Board of Education.
Betsy Bates, Director, Winsville Board of Education.
Jennifer Simpson, the Secretary of Winsville Board of Education.
And Natalie Deweese, President of Winsville School Board of Education.
Curtis Kane, Superintendent, Winsville School District.
Mike Kane, member of the Francis Howell Board of Education.
Patrick Lane, member of the Francis Howell Board of Education.
Sandra Ferguson, Treasurer for the Francis Howell School Board.
Chad Lang, Vice President of the Francis Howell School Board.
Kevin Supple, Chief Operating Officer for Francis Howell.
And Renee Cook, President of the Francis Howell School Board.
I just want to start by thanking everyone for coming tonight, and just a little bit of background on what brings us here tonight. There have been lots of formal and informal conversations about a collaborative program initiative regarding advanced studies. And so our assistant superintendents are going to make a presentation about 20 to 30 minutes this evening, and then we'll have opportunities for the superintendents to make some comments and allow for some questions. But we have a lot of momentum and a lot of excitement about a program that would immerse students in professional studies and on-the-job training, internships, projects, and a study of some job-related skills. So we're going to hear about that this evening. I will say that all of our districts are in very different places with where we are in this focus and where we are in this program, but the superintendents really felt it was time that we as a county all get together and have a conversation and a common understanding about what we have been talking about and where we would like to go. So with that, I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Dr. Hendricks-Harris. I just want to take the time to thank everyone for being here. I know that it is a busy time of the year, so I appreciate everyone attending this joint board meeting for the CAPS program presentation and work session. This will be, as Dr. Hendrick-Harris said, it's going to be a joint presentation with the academic assistant superintendents within the 5 St. Charles County School Districts. And we've also invited Dr. Travis Brock, who is the assistant superintendent at Afton, to join us for the presentation as well. And so the purpose of tonight's presentation is twofold. One, we want to provide information about the CAPS program so that we all have a similar understanding of what a CAPS program is. And two, we want to look at how we might implement a St. Charles County CAPS program. So during the presentation, we will give an overview of the CAPS program. We will share information that we learned when we visited the Northland CAPS program in Kansas City. You'll hear from a district implementing a CAPS program here in St. Louis. And we will share how we might implement this CAPS program together in St. Charles County. There are some handouts that were at your spot. Those handouts will be referenced later in the presentation by Mrs. Waters and Dr. Tamalia. So we'll go ahead and get started. We see the CAPS program as an amazing opportunity to provide our students with college and career readiness at a different level. The CAPS program stands for the Center for Advanced Professional Studies. It's a national program, and it's gaining much traction in Missouri and across the nation. So it's a programming model that schools can implement to provide juniors and seniors with professional and innovative education with immersion in high skill and high demand careers. Unlike traditional courses, the curriculum is driven by the business partners, and the classrooms are held at a business site. The students work collaboratively on projects with their business partners, and they participate in an internship in a business. They do earn high school credit for their CAPS coursework and for their internship, and typically college credit options are also available. So the CAPS program fully supports college and career readiness skills. The ability for students to develop professional skills and a career experience while in high school will be a game changer. In a recent New York Times article that I read, the title was How to Prepare for an Automated Future. And in this article, the author stated that employers will place more value on on-the-job training, such as apprenticeships and internships in the workplaces. So we know by doing this, we're going to be setting up our students for opportunities that will be certainly changing and will make a difference for them down the road. And the other thing I want to point out is that the CAPS program allows us to show our students what career opportunities are available for them right here in St. Charles County. Certainly after they graduate from college, we want to have them return to us into St. Charles County. And so by exposing them to these high skill, high demand careers while they're in high school and in St. Charles County, we want to see them come back and work in those areas here in our area. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tamalia. Oh no, Dr. Tamalia for the next set of slides.
Great, and so I get to talk to you a little bit about the overarching themes, the guiding principles for the CAPS program. We do have 5 guiding principles that are embedded within all programs, thank you, all programs within the CAPS coursework. The first is a profession-based learning. As Nicole kind of talked about just a minute ago, these courses are immersed in the profession or the field that the student is studying. They're working with real-world problems, project-based learning. They're working on projects within the companies or within the field that they have that allow the students to address current issues or problems within that company, that organization. We've talked about during our discussions with Northland CAPS and with their partners there, they really talk about having the students work on maybe that 10th problem that an organization has or a 10th idea on their priority list that they don't have the manpower or time to get to, and giving a project like that to a group of students. Many of the students also have internships that sometimes even turn into paid internships for them when they complete the program. So this is a great opportunity for them to really immerse themselves within that profession. It's a very responsive program. As Nicole talked about, it's a high-skill, high-demand career path that the students are studying and exposing themselves to. And there's a deep connection between the curriculum and what the demands are within that profession, within that business industry. So we are going to be talking very closely with the business leaders in that area to define for us the main components of the curriculum and make sure the students are having exposure to the different areas that are necessary so that they become strong candidates for future work in those areas. This program is also about self-discovery and exploration. And so with the CAPS program, we want students to be able to identify a pathway that they're interested in and really dig in and find their strengths, find their passions. If this is an area that they wanted to get into, we want them to have exposure to that before they go to college. So when they're making those choices for their life after high school, we want them to know that this is a career path that they want to embark upon. And if it's not, then they know that they can go down a different pathway. The fourth principle that we had is also a strong emphasis on professional skills development, those soft skills that are so critical for people to be competent and professional in the workplace. And so all of the coursework starts with a 2-week boot camp on professional skills. And it was very impressive meeting all of the young men and women at the Northland CAPS site and getting to talk with them, because we all walked away with a great impression that these were professional young men and women who could impress you as somebody who just stepped off of a university campus. They did not present themselves as your typical juniors and seniors of high school. They're professionally dressed, they use professional language, they look you in the eye, they have a great handshake, they have an elevator pitch. They're able to talk to you about the areas in which they're learning and be very professional, and it's amazing to watch them and to talk with them, and you'll hear more about some of the conversations that we were able to have with them while we were there. And the last area for the guiding principles for the CAPS program is just really having that entrepreneurial mindset, making sure that we are creating creative thinkers who are addressing real-world problems, so they're problem solvers. We're creating an innovative culture for them to work within, and we're having them find solutions to unique world problems for the individual organizations that they're working within. So they're really starting to begin to start solving tomorrow's problems today and walk out of their experience with the CAPS program with some tangible items that go onto their resume as they're applying for colleges, as they're applying for paid internships. It helps these students become more marketable and more desirable no matter what they're going after, if it's a scholarship, if it's entrance to a prestigious college or university, or entering the workplace. So we feel that these tenets run throughout the entire program and really set up a strong structure to make it an exemplary program for our students. And so now Dr. Wade Steinhoff from Orchard Farm will share some of our experiences from our tour of Northland.
Thank you, Danielle. It's really exciting to be here tonight to talk about CAPS, and I do want to say to my colleagues, it's been an honor. I know we collaborate and partner on a lot of things, but this work around CAPS has been really exciting and fulfilling. I also want to take a moment to just hit pause on the room and to look around and really take into account that this is probably making history. I don't know that all 5, you're a part of history tonight. I don't know that all 5 school boards have come together for a joint board meeting before. But I think to Dr. Hendrick Hare's point, there's a lot of momentum building around CAPS, and there's a lot of enthusiasm and excitement, and rightfully so. And so we just want to share some of that excitement that we've been able to have the pleasure of seeing firsthand. So Northland CAPS is in North Kansas City area, and before we talk about what we learned from Northland CAPS, I think it's important to know why we went to Northland CAPS. Why Northland CAPS? We went because it's a consortium model, a collaborative model in which 7 regional school districts came together with this idea of how can they create opportunities for students that they probably wouldn't be able to create to this degree individually. But together they could be able to provide a number of different professional strands for kids to explore. So once we decided on Northland, we were able to have a group of area business leaders, representatives from the EDC, Chamber of Commerce. Our school districts were all represented, and we learned that the CAPS story is best told through the lens of the students, as is the case with most school stories. And my favorite, and for those of you that went on the trip, you probably recall this, was when we sat with a group of kids, and this was in the IT strand, information technology strand, and this one young man, he gets up and very professional, as Danielle pointed out, the professional training that they receive, those soft skills training. He stands up, introduces himself very professionally, turns to his classmate, which he refers to as his associate, and he tells about, he starts to say, I worked with my associate and a client on a solution to improve their business efficiency and ultimately result in positive profit margins for the company. And then it was just like, whoa, this out-of-body experience. That would have been an out-of-body experience for many high school students. But for this student, he's told this story and he's experienced it, lived it, and that was just part of his high school experience. This was no minor project that he worked on. He worked with Cerner, a major employer, thousands of people in that region. So really neat things were accomplished, and there were many other great stories to tell from that visit. I will say that they have a number of strands. The strands include digital media and design, engineering and advanced manufacturing, global business and entrepreneurship, global logistics, medicine and healthcare, and technology solutions. And you're going to hear more details from Ms. Waters here in just a moment about the trip, but I think the final lesson we learned from Northland, that we learned from our partner in Travis and Afton, from Springfield and from others, is to just get started. It's okay to start small, but to just start. Northland, this great program, started in year one 4 years ago with 28 students. Quickly grew to 300 kids to 400 students now. So we're really excited to start. And we'll hear from Jen on the next slide.
Thank you, Wade. Just very quickly before we get into what their CAPS program looks like, I just want to be really clear that none of this has been predetermined for St. Charles County, which is a really important point to make, because we were really lucky to, actually we've all been to see 2 really great programs at this point, and they're models for us, but we all feel really strongly that we need to do what's best for the students in St. Charles County. So I'm going to kind of go through what the program looks like, some of the specifics, but just keep in mind that this is Northland CAPS. This is not necessarily exactly what we would expect our program to look like. So first of all, students spend a half a day at their home school. So a student who goes to Fort Zumwalt West High School would spend half a day at West High, and then the other half of their day in the CAPS program. The slots and the sessions, there are 25 students per session, and there's an AM and a PM session for each individual strand, so about 50 students per day. And each district would be allocated spots, so those are things that we would discuss and talk about. The strand sessions run about 7:30 to 10 o'clock in Northland, and then the afternoon is 12 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. Again, you know, those are just some times that we might base our program on. Tuition, which is something that we've talked about a lot, they charge about $3,500 per student. So if you participate in that program for a year, the district is responsible for paying the $3,500 for that student. One of the districts in the consortium will become the financial agent, and we would pay that district the tuition dollars, much like we do with the Lewis and Clark Center right now. The application process with Northland CAPS, students complete an application. There are really no prerequisites, no GPA requirements. They feel really strongly that the program needs to fit the student. And again, those are things that we may or may not consider. I know right now, Wentzville, St. Charles, Orchard Farm, they're starting to get it going a little bit, and we may look at those things just a little bit differently. And as Wade discussed just a little bit, the program took a while to get going in Northland. So you can kind of see that the number of districts increased, the enrollment has increased, and the numbers of seniors and juniors increased over the years. The Northland CAPS program, just a few additional things, and we've talked a little bit about this already, but first semester is really a time where they learn about content in their strand, in the actual field that they will study. Additionally, it's that time to teach those professional skills. I know something that we hear a lot from career technical educators throughout the area is that often students will have the content knowledge, but they really struggle with those workplace skills. So they spend a lot of time doing really direct instruction about those skills. Second semester is when the internship actually kicks in, so the student is placed with a business partner. They spend 4 out of their 5 days of the week with that business partner. And that's where they really start to dig in, get that you know, hands-on experience in that actual workplace. And we have a quick video It's about 90 seconds. These are actually Northland CAPS students, so we'll take a look at that.
Real-world education.
It's a really big opportunity, especially for second semester internships.
An opportunity for high school students to get real-world experience.
Innovative, ahead of the times education.
Northland CAPS enhances and develops creative passions through authentic application.
Northland CAPS is a program that works with juniors and seniors that helps them discover and pursue their dreams.
Additionally, at your seat, we have some handouts for everyone. The first one, there are some frequently asked questions about the actual internship experience for the student. Also, we have the Also, there is just a Northland CAPS frequently asked questions, just kind of a general handout. The third thing is about what a career center is related to what a CAPS program is. And I'm going to bring Danielle up. She's going to talk a little bit about Lewis and Clark.
Well, one of the questions that immediately usually comes into play when we start talking about CAPS is how does this relate to, or how is it different from, the Lewis and Clark Career Center? I'm sure all of you are aware that the Lewis and Clark Career Center has had a rich history in our county of educating students from across the county, from all of our districts and the parochial schools as well, with great, innovative, hands-on education. And most of those programs result in those students earning a credential in that area where when they graduate, when they leave our program, if it's a 1 or 2 year program, they are ready for work. And they're being hired at rapid speeds. Or they're taking that information that they've learned and they're moving on to college and expanding upon it. Our goal with looking at our CAPS program is to expand and enrich what we're doing right now with Lewis and Clark. Not to replace it, not to supplant it. This is a little different, and if I can explain like one career path. We currently have a health occupations course. Those students typically want to go into the healthcare field, typically want to be nurses. So they will go through their programming, they will learn all the basics about taking care of patients, they will actually leave with, after their 2 year program with a CNA, a Certified Nursing Assistant's credential, ready to work. What we're proposing, once we walk down the path of healthcare and medicine, which is still the same career field, but this might be for the student who wants to become a doctor, doesn't have an idea really of what specialty or what field. Those students might go into the hospital setting, spend time in the ICU, spend time in the surgery center, spend time in emergency medicine, pediatrics, geriatric care, cancer medication, the pharmacy, possibly the hospital administration, where they get a more global view of the different types of opportunities that are in healthcare. They might be working side by side with the pharmaceutical or the medical device sales rep who is running the $5 million machine in the surgery, in the OR. So those students are going to walk away with a different type of experience where it helps them refine and narrow their field of focus for when they go into college. So it's a different type of program. It's more about exposure and experience and gaining those experiences so that they can determine what specifically they want to do when they get to college, if that makes sense.
And now I'd like to bring up Dr. Travis Brock, who is the Assistant Superintendent at Afton and also oversees the St. Louis CAPS program in the Afton School District.
Thank you. You guys ready for some pictures? That was enough. That's enough words. So I have slides with pictures. So if you want to go to the next one. So in July of 2012, that's when I started learning about CAPS, and that was 1 month after I stopped working here at Francis Howell. So I worked here for 10 years. And so it took until last school year for Afton to feel like we can launch a program. So we started with 27 seniors, Afton High School, working in engineering, healthcare, and business. And so that parlayed into this school year with two other school districts joining us, Melville and Bayless. We've got 2 additional school districts ready to work with us next year. And so therefore we're called St. Louis CAPS. So Afton CAPS lived 1 year. This is the first year for St. Louis CAPS. And so I wanted to tell you just a little bit about what are some of the things that stick out now that we've got 2 years under our belt. The one thing I want to say is partnerships. So school districts working together in this manner is a bit different. So it's kind of a new way of working together. And then also kids and instructors working with business partners in a different way. I'm going to get to kind of what that looks like in just a little bit. I want to go to the next slide. The other thing that I want to hit on, which you heard from the Northland video, is real world. So I've only shown you 2 pictures. Those are not classrooms in a school. That is where the professions are happening. So this is in a hospital. This is in an operating room. This is where our kids are learning. The picture before that was a small business. I hesitate to say small business. That gentleman lives in Afton. He's got one of the fastest growing marketing firms in St. Louis. And so he is a true diamond in the rough, and he just happens to be in our backyard. He is energized and enthused about working with our kids because he said, this is what I wish we would have had. This is real world. I'll let you guys teach them the books. I'll teach them the real world, and this will be very beneficial. So I can't emphasize that enough. It's not uncommon for our kids to show up and conduct his morning meeting where he has a stand-up meeting with his business associates. You want to go to the next one? And it's very intense. So this is not a one-day field trip. This is not a 1-hour class. This is 3 hours for an entire year, their senior year. And it is intense. It is in the real world. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times when seniors get close to April and May, they start powering down a little bit. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. Okay, good. These kids are powering up. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what a week in April looks like for some of the CAP students. They are busier than they've ever been, and they are aspiring to do things that, quite honestly, are pretty amazing. So that's what I mean by intense. What do I mean by talking with business partners differently? What does that partnership look like? And we call it handshakes, not handouts. So when we go up to a business partner, they're usually ready for us to ask them for money. So it's a school district, you're from the school district, when are you going to ask me for a donation, something like that. And so we change the language a little bit. So if you go to the next slide, we ask them, what can we do for you? We've got some pretty talented kids, and I'd like for you to get to know them. I'd like for you to maybe give them something that's been number 10 on your to-do list for a year. So that means you're not going to get to it, unless somebody jumpstarts it. And let these kids jumpstart. Let them do something with it, and maybe you find value out of it. Take it, leave it. It's valuable for the kids. You're a real audience. You're a real business partner. And so would you allow us to do that? Turns out, if you go to the next slide, there's quite a bit of business partners that will do that. So our students have worked with a number of companies, not just in St. Louis, but out of state. So the last project we did was a website for people who are moving to Maine to open a bed and breakfast. And so the network just continues to grow. The kids in the business strand, all new projects, all new clients this year. So you don't recycle the curriculum. The projects that we did last year, hopefully we satisfied that. We're moving on to new clients and new projects this year. And it turns out that the medical industry, the healthcare industry, they don't have all the problems solved either. So if you go into a hospital and say, what keeps you up at night? What are the problems that go on in a hospital? Can our kids try and solve some of those? Just pitch it to them. What is a constant, Achilles heel? And so our kids do that, and they pitch their solutions directly to the medical professionals. So hardly ever is the student handing something to a teacher, waiting for a grade, points over points total. It's pitch to the client, pitch to the professional. If they say it's not good enough, go back and do it again. And then come back and pitch it to them when it's better and when it can meet their standards. You go to the next slide. And because we work very closely in this way with business professionals, they really transform into a network for the students. So they now see them more as a mentor and mentee as just somebody that I meet once and then I never talk to again. And this is a shot of our students having a lunch with their mentors before they do their presentations. That's part of the curriculum. They have to deliver in a situation like this, or the teacher will follow up with them. Why weren't you talking with the person next to you? We've talked about how to network in settings like this. So that is part of what students are getting instruction in. And because of those relationships, go back one slide. Yeah. So because of those relationships, all of these opportunities open up. And honestly, you never actually know where they're going to come, and you do have to lay a lot of groundwork. These are students, and if you look at what do you see on their faces? Pretty big smiles. They just watched open heart surgery. And that's one of many surgeries they will observe. And when I say they watched it, the surgeon said, could you tell me what that is right there? What part of the body is that? And what does that function as? So they are getting a very intense experience. Now that exceeds my expectations. I would never ask a business partner to do that. But that illustrates when you build that relationship, let them tell you what they want to do for the kids. And that takes time, but eventually when you build that trust and they know that you're sending them students that are of a high caliber, they open up opportunities that I would never ask for. I would think that's too much to ask, but they want to do that. And so have a lot of examples of that, but that's just one example. So this is our engineering teacher talking with his business partners. So our engineering teacher, he's a high school industrial technology teacher, a project lead the way teacher. He knows curriculum. He can teach the course without any help, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to ask that person in the construction industry, to ask the person in the manufacturing industry, what is it we need to be doing with our kids? And it goes into the curriculum right away. If they come to him with an opportunity, he doesn't say maybe next year, maybe next week. He says, we'll start on that tomorrow, or we'll start on it very soon. So that's a different dynamic with curriculum. It keeps it fresh and it keeps it new. This illustrates those professional skills. This is not something I made up. The State of St. Louis Workforce, it's put out every year. These are the skills that employers say are lacking. So this is what we work on with the kids. We're very intentional about this. Most of the kids are plenty intelligent. They're doing great things in their school. We're trying to make them smarter academically, but we're also trying to round them out by saying, this is why you'll get the job over somebody else, if you can demonstrate this. So this is a key part of the program, and we really stress this with students. These are the fields that right now in St. Louis, high skill, high demand, meaning that if you have the skill, you're going to get a job. But you have to have the skill, and you have to have those skills that we just saw on the previous slide. So we've developed our coursework around these strands right here, because that's where the skill gap is, and we want to show our community we are giving you your workforce. This is your next workforce, but we need you to help mold them while they're still in high school. And then one of the last slides I wanted to show you is just the dynamic that goes on here. 3 kids, 3 different high schools, working on a project, 3 hours a day for an entire year. All of these things start becoming very real to them. The number one thing that kids say when someone asks them, so what did you learn from this course? Time management, period. They say that is absolutely, you cannot leave an assignment for the day before. We've got several projects going on all at the same time. The course doesn't slow down for us. It keeps us moving. If you go to the next slide, this is a week in April for our students, and I just put some things up there. They have guest speakers coming in. They're going out to visit businesses. They're working on their individual project. They're working on team projects. They're working on cross-strand projects. They're submitting things for competitions at St. Louis University. All of this goes on in April through May of a senior year. And so this is what's giving them that success. If you can do this, then honestly, when you get to college, it might seem a little bit boring, and that's some of the feedback we get, is that we were seeing more our senior year here. We were doing more than I am at college. And so that's something that, that may push higher education to think about when these students come to you, they're very prepared. That's it. Would you like my pictures?
Thank you. Now let's turn it over to Greg to talk about the consortium and what that might look like in St. Charles County.
Well, first off, thanks, Travis. Been just a real leader in this area for a while now. We very much appreciate your leadership in that. And also very much appreciate all my colleagues and all the collaboration that we've been able to come together to be at this point. And also our superintendents, their ability to work together to be here. Without those steps, there's no way we'd be even closer to having this move forward. But when we all work together, we know we can do some great things for all the kids in St. Charles County. So it's really kind of amazing that we're able to come together really just in that aspect. So how do we take all this momentum and actually make a consortium? So no matter how well we get along, which we all get along great, we have to figure out ways to govern ourselves. And so there's going to be issues that come up, and we're going to have disagreements. So we're going to have to figure out how do we set this governing board, how do we make decisions, and how we move forward. So ultimately what will happen will a St. Charles County CAPS advisory board will be formed. That advisory board will give their recommendations to our fiscal agent school board, that is. So one of us will be the fiscal agent, so one of the school districts. That'll come from a recommendation from the advisory board. So how does the board get formed? So kind of work backwards. So we'll start here with the steering committee. So the steering committee would be a large group of community people. So we think 1 to 2 people per school district, members of the Economic Council, Chamber, Workforce Development, Higher Ed, and then we'd have business representation from healthcare, information technology, business entrepreneurship, engineering, advanced manufacturing. So this group would get together first. And so this group would first get together and talk about, okay, what does the makeup of the board need to be? And so, I don't have a crystal ball, but to predict kind of what we think that board might end up looking like is coming from the steering committee, the recommendation would be a 9-member board, is what we think. So 5 school district members, 4 business partner members. And so what would that board do? Well, that board would probably first determine who would be the fiscal agent. And so then the local school board would have to accept that. So the advisory board has no authority over any local school board. So the hierarchy is going to be your local school board, and then the CAPS board is just recommending to the fiscal agent board. So if the fiscal agent board disagrees with recommending what the CAPS board is recommending, they can veto those recommendations. So really no real power for the CAPS board except to recommend to the fiscal agent board. So what that CAPS board then would recommend probably hiring a director. The teachers then would also be recommended from that CAPS board, but they would become employees of the fiscal agent board is how this would all kind of work, the kind of the nuts and bolts of that. Then also the CAPS board would talk about the MOU, the bylaws, all those kind of rules and regulations of themselves. But the main thing is that districts would just pay a tuition rate to the fiscal agent board, just like we do for Lewis and Clark, that would pay for the CAPS program in the county. And so that would be kind of how that would work. So the steering committee would do that first, and then we would go to the board. Go to the next slide here. And so to start, what the board might recommend, and what we kind of think they'll probably start off with, is healthcare, information technology, business entrepreneurship, and engineering. But the main reason, why do we need to form a consortium? Why is a consortium important? Why couldn't we just each do our own thing? Is really that just, it gets to be expensive for every district to expand all of the programs. And no one district could probably be as expansive as all of us together. So we can definitely save costs by working together. And then also, when we talk about reaching out to business partners, we only have one person that's going out and reaching. So it's not all 5 districts trying to reach one business. So we're all coming at it together. We're kind of an organized group that we can help connect all of our kids into those connections. So that would be the idea as a consortium, is that we would work together and be a streamlined approach to our business partners. So that is pretty much that. So Nicole.
And as noted on the bottom of the slide, I mean, we're familiar with the consortium model, which is what we have in our current concept with our Lewis and Clark structure. And so at this time, we would love for any superintendents that are in the room, if they want to make any comments, add any input regarding CAPS. Dr. Dubray.
I probably don't need a microphone.
Okay.
The only thing I wanted to say was a follow-up on something that Greg alluded to. There's some ulterior motives here with this. The Chambers of Commerce, the Economic Development Center, Partners for Progress, St. Charles County, all those entities would love to see a CAPS program get started because of what it would do for attracting people to St. Charles County, the quality of life, all those kinds of things. So there's some real horsepower behind this thing from not just the school districts, but from our community leaders. And they have made some of these same trips to Northland CAPS. And they're pretty excited about where this is all going. And I think they're more excited because it's a consortium effort, because it shows, a collaboration here in St. Charles County that is a good lesson for a lot of our states. So I think that's important. I also think it's worth mentioning, it's good that Wentzville is as far along as they are, and St. Charles and Orchard Farm, because we're not there yet. We'll need to watch and see how that goes. We're just getting our financial house in order. We just passed our tax increase April of a year ago, April, and we're just getting some of the staffing that some of the rest of you have had for a while. So as we get that in place, then we'll be able to look at other things, and our board will be able to decide how fast we move forward. But if the consortium's going together, we want to be part of it, but we're just lagging a little bit to catch up a little bit with the time that we didn't have our financial resources that we needed. We do now, but we have to watch carefully what the state does, because I don't know what's going to happen with state resources. There's a lot of schemes that are going to draw money from public schools, and if they all get put in place, I think we're going to have to watch that carefully, because money is an object in this. It's not anything you can just move forward and not think about the cost associated with it. So I think that's worthwhile at least throwing out on the table.
Thank you, Dr. Dubray. Any other superintendents like to say anything? Add any additional information?
Well, I would point out that I think, there's a lot of wisdom in what Dr. Dubray says, because the way we're starting this is kind of organic. So, we're partnering with Orchard Farm because we're right next door to each other. We're going to do an entrepreneurship strand with 5 kids per high school from our 3 high schools. That's not a big commitment. We have a staff member, Cheryl Graber, you can wave your hand, who's going to take that on for us. We have a place to meet. But the point is, we're getting started, and that'll be something that all the other districts can look at. Wentzville's already out on their own and starting and growing. Oh, thank you.
So I think it can grow organically, but I think we all see that we'll all only be able to do so much individually. At some point, to reap the real benefits of a program like this, it will take all of us or most of us or as many as can possibly be involved. But we also understand it's got to be the right time under the right circumstances. So I think we're going to learn a lot, through Winsfield's sticking their toes in the water and our collaborative with Orchard Farm, and we can all learn from that. And that's something that we can build on as we hopefully get a consortium long term. So I'm really excited about it. Most of us are. I haven't met anyone yet that thinks it's a bad idea. It's just a matter of making sure it makes sense and when's the right time and how to do it. So that would be my thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Marion. Any others? Dr. Kate? There you go.
Well, first and foremost, this is what's best for kids. This is absolutely, from a curricular perspective, what is best for kids. And so that needs to be our primary driver. Secondly, at least for us, when we think about growth, maybe this is a way for us to more fiscally responsibly deal with some of the growth. It presents great opportunities in terms of growth, but there are challenges as well. And point blank, there are things that we are not going to be able to do to the depth that we'd like to do them as a district when we're trying to deal with the growth that we are absolutely facing. And so this helps to mitigate some of that, and we are excited about it. And it should not be undersold that everyone in this county is in this room at this point in time. We've talked, I do not know of this ever happening before, and especially with everything that's going on elsewhere, for us to all be in the same place, moving this forward in the same way, we should all be not only excited, but very proud of that fact as well. So we're excited about moving forward. We don't have it all figured out. You saw Northland didn't have it all figured out, and we don't have it all figured out, but we can and we'll get there together.
Thank you. Dr. Moser, Dr. Harris? No?
Well, we're just excited to have partnered with St. Charles as the smallest district in the county. We probably have the fewest resources, so we want to be a strong partner. So we feel very fortunate that St. Charles is working with us. But the county consortium model for us would be ideal, just because I said due to our size. But the countywide model would allow for the ebbs and flows and the interest of students, and as cohorts go through the programs, that's what Northland CAP said, that there's interest in certain schools and certain grade levels. So it kind of allowed us to balance out. And if we saw there was a funding issue, we would be able to set caps on the numbers. We could restrict enrollment. We could set those numbers and really control the growth or the shrinkage of that program, however we see fit as a group or as a recommendation from the board. So I think that from my perspective, I always tell my Board of Education that we must fund what's important to us. And to me, this is very important. So we will work diligently to try to develop a funding plan so we can create opportunities for any student that wants the opportunity.
And I'll just say for Friends how we are kind of along the same lines. We focus on college and career readiness. We hear very much from our stakeholders how important that is. We hear from our local business partners that our students are not necessarily graduating from us or from colleges ready for those careers. And so we do think this is a big rock in our conversations, something that needs to get done, and it is the right thing for our kids. And so it is a matter of us prioritizing our resources and making this happen. I don't see that we, Francis Howell, even though we're not in a great financial situation right now, would let this momentum bypass us. So we intend to move forward as well, and are excited about the opportunity. We do not have a program moving forward right now, as some of the other districts do, but we have some plans and some intentions about reallocating some resources in order to make this happen in the very near future. So we're right there with everyone else. And at this time, I would say we would open it up for any questions from any board members, anything from the presentation that you need more clarification about, questions that you have?
So I have a question. How does it fit with or replace the Explorer program that we're currently partnering with St. Charles County Community College?
And one plus with right now with CEA is that certainly we would be able to utilize the resources that have already been established. They have a variety of business partners. There's already kind of a foot in the door there, so I think that relationship will certainly help the program. And that would be certainly a conversation to have with CEA on how does that partner together. Does it become a freshman, sophomore kind of precursor to CAPS, what they might look like. But I think starting off, the business partners that they've already established certainly will help us, because if you look at the Northland program, they had some documents that they handed us, and they have a plethora of business partners, because as their program grew and all the client projects that happened and the internships, so we've already got some groundwork established with CEA with they have again a plethora of business partners. Sometimes you just need the mentor, sometimes you need speakers, so I think they would be a partner with us to start, and then as the program evolves, the question is what happens with it. How does that grow, or does it change? I think we'd have to see that along the way. So I don't know that answer is solidified at this point, and I don't know if anyone else wants to comment with that.
Just the way I kind of see CEA's role with they would be a job shadowing, kind of a sophomore or junior even, is I'm kind of interested in being an attorney. I'm going to go see them for a day, and then the CAPS program is they're really immersed in it all semester. So that'd be kind of the main difference.
Thank you.
I have a separate one. So help me make sure I'm understanding the conversation in the room. It sounds to me like right now St. Charles City and Orchard Farm are going to move out with an entrepreneurship strand, and then other districts, as they choose, would pick a different strand. And help me if I'm headed in the wrong direction. They would choose a different strand and start on their own until the time we could come together, or if you're going to start a strand, you join.
So yes, St. Charles City School District and Orchard Farm are partnering on a CAPS program to begin in August 2017, and we've identified business entrepreneurship as the first strand. But it's important to note that as we're planning and developing this, we're also very cognizant of ensuring that it is would fit very much in a consortium collaborative model in future years. That is as we've shared, our ultimate goal for this to grow into a countywide collaborative. Wentzville is starting, I believe, 3 strands, and Greg could probably speak to those details.
And sure, we're starting our healthcare strand and entrepreneur business solutions strand. But the same idea is that as a consortium would come together, we would be working together to move that forward, and how do our programs really come together instead of being 5 spokes, which is one wheel, and we're all working together to build that out as a county.
Well, and even as we're all working towards this goal of having something ready for next year, we're making plans to work together on curriculum development and things like that this summer, so that we are still forging ahead for our own respective districts, but we're trying to do it where we're establishing a framework so the experiences don't differ dramatically from one location to the next. So it can become the groundwork for the consortium if we're able to move forward with that.
So I think that part of the work of the steering committee would decide what that would look like. So you have the Northland CAPS model where you have that one district that is the fiscal agent, and so they were even talking as they administrator had a teacher that had retired, and so there was a teacher, Northland, North Kansas City happens to be the fiscal agent district in Northland CAPS, and there was a teacher from another district that wanted to go into the CAPS program, and so she interviewed through Northland as they did the hiring, and so she switched, or North Kansas City switched districts. So that's the one model where you have that fiscal agent district. They, the teachers are on their payroll books. They are hired by that district, and that board of directors recommends. You have Afton's model that Travis spoke about, where they started, it was just Afton, and then they realized that they wanted to open it up to other districts, and so they changed their name to St. Louis CAPS, and they accept tuition. So they don't have, it's not a consortium, they accept tuition. So in this consortium model, we could decide how that's going to look. We've got a model that we have with Northland, so that would be the part of the steering committee would decide exactly what would that look like. But I think we know that we can learn from as districts get their feet wet into it, dip their toes in the water, what's working and how does that blend together. Do we have that fiscal agent? Do We each have a strand and we share kids and open up spots, and those are some things we would have to decide on what that would look like as we move forward. But we have certainly models out there that we can utilize to help guide our decision and our thinking.
Thank you. I'll just add that we've had some preliminary conversations in Francis Howell with Charter and developing an IT strand in the near future.
Then we have a meeting on the 19th with SSM to expand our relationship with them to try to secure, we really want to secure all the hospitals in the county. So that way, when we develop the consortium model, wherever you're closest to, that could be that classroom setting for those kids.
We also need to get those memorandums of understanding so Dr. Brock doesn't come out here and try to. Doesn't try to take on our hospitals.
We won't let them cross.
In Northland, they worked with, their medical strand was one of their largest strands, and they had more than one hospital that they partnered with for their program.
I would like to add something. I was sitting here thinking something I should share with you. I was in Jeff City today. We were working on MSIP 6. I know that sounds really exciting. MSIP 6, standards and indicators for educator effectiveness and instructional processes. And we actually discussed adding a brand new standard relating to collaboration between districts and districts helping one another to build on the momentum of programs like this. So, because we see the value that sometimes we don't think about, how can we partner with another district or other public entities in order to maximize our resources and get more bang for our buck and provide things we couldn't do otherwise. So hopefully that'll make it through all the processes, and that'll be, because these are process standards and we're trying to do some things that, who knows, that might become a standard where you can get points toward accreditation with distinction for doing things like this. So what we're trying to do there is spur and provide incentives for innovation and collaboration. And I think not only with school districts, but the more we can collaborate with all public entities, trying to make the most of public dollars, we just don't do that well enough. And I think this is, talk about a great start. I don't think we should undersell, like it's been said tonight, this is a huge step forward. So hopefully the state's even going to recognize and reward these kind of collaborations as we move forward.
The other thing I would connect back to, I know many of us were at the MSBA legislative breakfast where we heard a presentation on College Ready, and one of the indicators in there about College Ready was having graduates have an experiential learning experience prior to graduation. And I do think that's a conversation that will be in the near future, something that we will all be looking for our graduates to have, and this would be one piece of that, potentially.
I have a couple of questions. Number one is, the consortium model that you said is $3,500 for Kansas City. Is that self-supporting? And I'm assuming the teachers that are part of this model are on site at the business or hospital, wherever they are. They're not actually at school, correct?
Yes, yes to both. So the teachers, they run AM and a PM session, so they're at that business site that's providing the classroom space, if you will. So they're with them.
Okay, but that $3,500 makes that a self-supporting
So
program.
So they set their tuition based on what they know they need to fund the program. So that would include the salaries of their teachers. There's an executive director that kind of runs the program, and there is 2 other directors and I think 2 office staff, because they have to take attendance and get it back to the home schools, because the home schools collect their students' ADA, so there's some paperwork involved there, and obviously collecting tuition. And so so that $3,500, and then some supplies for the teachers as well, some minimal supplies, so it covers the cost of the program to run it.
Okay, so each, like, if we wanted to provide resources for 100 kids, we could have, St. Charles wanted to provide 50, you could allocate whatever your budget allows you to do, so it would be flexible in that regard.
Exactly.
And then the second question, I don't know if Travis or somebody else can answer this, are students allowed to change strands? If they get into a strand and find it's not really for them, are they allowed to change strands at some point? Or how does that work?
Yeah, I think that the magnitude would play in part. If it's one student, I think that's very acceptable. We haven't had any students that have gotten into the strand and then, decided they would want to do something else. And I think a lot of that comes from we do projects where the strands overlap. So, you know, they wouldn't necessarily have to literally change a strand if they wanted to. We could probably, you know, balance that out, but I think if you had a bunch of kids that wanted to do that, that might create some logistical problems. But I think most CAPS programs do a lot of groundwork with the kids before. It's not like you just read a course description and then sign up for it. There's usually times for kids to go to open houses. We even do a kickoff day the week before school, so that's sort of a good chance for kids to realize, yep, this is exactly what I signed up for. And if it's not, they still have time to kind of go to their counselor and figure those things out. So I think the answer is probably yes and no, but the goal would be to lay enough groundwork that the student understands the strand they're in and is probably going to stick with it.
Northland did mention that if they had a student who, at semester, decided to go back to their homeschooled and traditional schedule, that tuition was for the year, and so if a student left midway through, the tuition there was no reimbursement to the district, so it was you paid for the whole year. That was how they handled that in their district. So then our board of directors would make those decisions on what they would recommend.
I have a question. Once this gets going and all the districts are doing strands, would the students ever go to different districts? For something that's maybe not available, maybe it's filled in their own district? Is that a goal?
I think we're saying anything's possible.
Right.
I mean, if I could speak, because I know, like, for example, like right now, St. Charles West, we have a lot of space. So if we, there might be some programs where you could house it in a facility. What are you laughing about, Curtis? You need that space? You can have it.
I didn't say it, I was only thinking.
Curtis found it very amusing that we have extra space. But my point is, if you have an education strand in the school setting, then that would still be real world. I think the power of this program is you get them out in a work setting, but there are some work settings that might work in one of our facilities, so certainly I think we want to be open to that because we want to find free space to make the programs work, and wherever it makes sense. Might be in a school building, might be in a business in one of our districts. So I think the answer is we're open to anything and everything when it comes to maximizing the space and opportunities.
But I think all strands would be available to all students from all districts, if that's what you were asking. Absolutely.
What we did hear when we visited Northland CAPS from the students, they said that really the only thing that limits them and their involvement is really the travel time, because the students are responsible for their own travel. And they said that, about 30 minutes is kind of where, we'll do that. Beyond that, it'd have to be something amazing, But then other kids said, yeah, but now that I'm in it, I would drive anywhere to do this. But about 30 minutes, and, we've kind of looked at that. That's why we need multiple hospitals. We need multiple, sites.
What about liability when students are driving all over the place?
We'll have insurance, hopefully. But we've talked through that.
You could use one of those, a private driver transportation agreement like you do for maybe your golf team. The kids fill that out to be able to drive to golf practice. It would be similar to that you could utilize. Nick, you had a question?
Has there been any thought about trying to find maybe a private equity partner on this? Someone like a MasterCard or a Citi, or maybe the one that sticks out in my mind is Lindenwood.
We've talked to Lindenwood primarily about space.
They've got space in the health-related profession building over at the Barrett School. They've got facilities for night school that are empty during the days. And they have student decline in terms of enrollment. And this would be a great feeder for St. Charles County to say, okay, test out health-related professions or test out business. And then that leads them into potential there. I would think Lindenwood would jump all over this and maybe...
Lindenwood's been a very eager partner. They've reached out, they've been a part of county-wide meetings on the topic, and have reached out to private meetings to not just look at space, but also credit opportunities. And
yeah, we're working with them right now on our entrepreneurship strand, even possibility of college credit. Writing a program in Lindenwood that
it would be a feeder program for them in their eyes.
Yeah, so I mean, we absolutely are open to that, and have already got them in the loop. So.
I think one of the things I've learned from Travis after many presentations on this topic has been that having kids in the workspace is what gets them the meaningful projects and the meaningful internships. So if you have them there, building those relationships is what continues to add to the expectation of what your business partners bring to the kids. And so we're hesitant, while we're open to having kids in separate spaces from where the actual work is going on, because we know that building those relationships is going to build on what our kids are going to be allowed to do with our business partners. So when we start out, and I know Travis started out not necessarily in the ideal location, that might be step one, but our ultimate goal is to have those kids on the sites where they will be doing the projects and doing the work.
And we're very excited with St. Charles because last week, 2 weeks ago, we've secured our location for our entrepreneurship, and so our students will be working out of the old post office startups on Main Street in St. Charles, which is an amazing. They've got 54 different businesses working out of a 7-building area, and our kids are going to be in the middle of it.
So they're going to be rubbing elbows with entrepreneurs, starting out businesses. I mean, you can't do that in a room at Lindenwood. The space is great, but the key there is getting them immersed in with other entrepreneurs, figure out is this really what I want to do or not. But we can use Lindenwood in lots of other ways, or they can help us, I shouldn't say.
And the beauty of it too is working with Randy Schilling with the old post office or with SSM for the healthcare center that we're talking about too. They're providing all of that to us free of charge. So they're not charging us any type of fee to be able to use their space, which is an amazing benefit to our kids as well.
This is a large, small county, and so seriously, positive news travels very, very quickly. And there are actually some examples of this. This conversation was in a different place 3 months ago than it is right now. When you start placing our kids and having them interacting with some of these businesses, they will wow them. I have questions about a lot of things. With the potential of our students, and I say our students countywide, I have zero doubt in terms of their ability to wow people. Our capacity, we'll be fighting to keep up with the capacity of how this will grow.
Well, we were really excited today too. Cheryl has gone out to our 3 high schools, the 2 high schools in St. Charles and Orchard Farm High School, to kind of pitch this entrepreneurship class, right? We're late in the game. It's May. These kids, they have schedules for next year already. We were just hoping to get 5 kids interested from each school for a total of 15, because we knew with that $3,500 model, we could break even. We could make it run, and it's not going to cost us anything, and that kind of thing. And so, with her meetings, we have 15 kids from each high school who are interested. From conversation, I heard that 5 minutes before this meeting started. So we already have a problem. And it's a good one to have. And so, I mean, the advice that Wade said earlier that we've heard is just start. And we did.
That shows the demand.
Well, yeah.
If the students, that's telling me the students are demanding programs like that, so that's exciting.
In May.
Right? In May.
When they already have their schedule.
They're willing to change their whole schedule.
Yeah.
I have a question. It sounds like there's a lot of individual kind of things rolling. What's the timeline look like for coming together?
Well, I think we would, this upcoming school year, we're supposed to be a consortium this upcoming school year. Everybody kind of has their own things going. It should take a little bit of time to put it all together. But the next year following, so would that be 18, 19, there's a potential consortium start date. That'd be potential. I mean, there's a lot of things that still have to come together, but that would be a potential time we might be able to do it.
And using 17, 18 for that steering committee to do the planning and get that work underway, and the board of directors right to lead into then implementing an 18, 19 would be ideal. And certainly that will also work with the direction of our boards in addition to that.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I like that they've, our administration's gone this far, and I don't think we've even voted on anything yet, so.
We'll be presenting this report.
No, but it's really exciting. I mean, I'm really excited about this, and also from a personal standpoint, with 2 students who, in a few years, will be eligible to participate as well. That's exciting personally. But knowing that, at least what I hear right now, part of the risk is just simply budgetary. Are there any other risks to starting this that have come up that we need to consider?
Travis, do you have anything to add there? Is that quietness from you?
Yeah.
I mean, the only,
I'll just add, I don't think that, you know, you're gonna start down a path which they've outlined. You have to see where you wanna go and know that it's just like anything else. You set goals, you may not meet them. So I'll give you an example. Set the goal of every kid has an internship. You may not meet it, but if you meet it by 80%, that's better than nothing. 0 kids, 0 internships, because we don't have a program. And so I think there's always those things that you're gonna have little bitty setbacks, but you gotta take the risk, and I think you'll risk forward as opposed to, you know, regressing. I think that's what I've taken away.
and there's been one part of conversation too, just whoever's the fiscal agent, if the enrollment doesn't come in, or if there's any type of issue, there is a certain level of responsibility for the staff that you've hired, just like for us with Leslie Clark. Those teachers are our staff members and they become tenured over time. And so if a program goes away or if there's some sort of decline, then that's ours to handle and absorb.
You know, that's a good question, and many of those teachers would not be a traditional teachers. They would be plucked possibly from the field, so they may be harder to place elsewhere in the district. So that would be a potential risk.
One of the things, we were, I guess, lucky in the fact that Afton High School had teachers that had time within their schedule to do this. That's how we got started. We brought teachers, we brought teachers on board. Yeah, you know where I used to
So go
work.
on,
And so we took them to Northland. So teachers that we thought could be interested, counselors, we showed them what this coursework looked like. And I didn't care whether we ever started a CAPS program. This will help them in the classroom. So if they see what's going on, even if they just stay in the classroom, we don't do any CAPS program, I was like, they're gonna come away with some good ideas. We're gonna do some great things in our home high school. And it turned out that they were excited. They said, no, let's try and make this work part-time in our schedules. So we didn't hire any staff. We just used some existing staff members. And that really helped sort of turn the wheel of momentum, is that they wanted to be part of it. And so we haven't, you know, the only reason we've had to add a staff member is because St. Anthony's basically adopted us this year and said, we want your teacher with us full-time, we will give you full access, and that's an opportunity you don't pass up. You take it and you say, we'll make it work, because those are rare, and if you pass that up, you may not get it again. And that's been a great strategic move for us, and so we have had to backfill one position. So since that teacher left the high school, we backfilled their position. And now, with the other districts we've brought on board, they're helping us cover costs, which is exactly what we knew would happen. And that those districts that we're working with, high school principal from Melville got to see our kids present at the hospital, blown away. She couldn't quit talking about, I've never seen a project like this. I've never seen such in-depth work at the high school level by students that go to different high schools. And I become very desensitized to that because I see the kids a lot. Like, I see them all the time. So it's hard to impress me because I know where they're going to go, but I often lose sometimes when folks are seeing this for the first time. It's only pleased and speechless. And those are the things that make you say, this is going to work, we're going to do this for kids.
And that's exactly how we're starting. We're repurposing Cheryl. So it's not costing us additional money. That's good news, board.
So that's why there wouldn't be a board vote, I'm just clarifying.
Thank you. But I was going to say, I should have started off with disclaimer that anything I ever say is pending board approval. But, yeah, sure. See, thank you, Don. I've already told us that. You just haven't asked for a vote, but tomorrow or Thursday.
Well, I think to follow up on Jeff's point, though, I think truly that's probably where all of us will get. I mean, if you look at the numbers that Northland CAPS has generated, if 3, 4, 5 years from now we have 400 students in this program, I don't think that we're talking about adding staff to accommodate them. Maybe Wentzville is because you guys are growing so fast. But I mean, really we're talking about reallocating resources that would have put teachers into our comprehensive high schools that then are reallocated into CAPS. And whether that's, you know, from what part of the faculty, I don't think we have any idea yet. But it might mean, you know, positions that we currently have that move to that program eventually, or new positions that get added there instead of in our schools.
I think there was very cost effective.
I think one of the things too that really made me realize how important this is for our kids, even outside of the experiences that they're having, because they're amazing experiences, is that we signed up to be a part of this National CAPS Network. I don't know, 2 months ago. And so we're the 54th organization that has joined the CAPS Network across the country. So not many school districts or consortiums have joined at this point. But in the state of Missouri, we have Blue Valley, we have Northland, we have St. Louis CAPS, we have Washington, we have Springfield, and they're kind of cropping up. And our kids are going to be competing against those kids for every college entrance, every scholarship, every opportunity. And we want our kids to be competitive. And so for me, as I'm looking at this, is we better get on this now, otherwise our kids are gonna be left behind. And we don't want that for our kids.
One question I thought of, we talked a lot about college and career readiness. Have any of the organization that you have reviewed or have you thought about, is there with partnering with trades as well? Has that been a topic of conversation yet?
With the trades?
With trades.
Oh, and so that's kind of goes back to that conversation between a CAPS program and a vocational program. So when you talk with like Lewis and Clark, we are partnered with all sorts of different trade organizations, and they're helping to support our curriculum, and they have their advisory boards for those different areas. And so that's really where, in the programs that we've looked at, that really still falls under the vocational side with like a Lewis and Clark.
Whereas the CAPS program would be more like professional studies end, and you had to have that typically a 4-year degree versus their certificate.
Does the Northland have any data yet to prove increased numbers of scholarships or opportunities that they've seen with the kids in this program?
We've seen and heard a lot of testimonials, both from their administrators, from students that said the increased that was something in their college application that set them apart from others, but they didn't share any data specific to that.
And we just went on a trip as well to Blue Valley CAPS, and we were sitting in a Shark Tank type of thing where the kids were presenting their pitches and things like that. And after it was finished, the kids talked to us about their experiences. And actually one of the students there, she said that through her work, through her program, she was working with, I forget even what governmental organization, but she included that in on her scholarship application, her college application. She received several scholarships from the university she was going to, and then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, she got word that she was going to be given an additional $10,000 scholarship based upon her project work that she was doing in that school with the CAPS program. So, and she announced that to the group while we were there, and their teachers were like, "Oh my gosh, this is, this is amazing," and they felt that just continued to support their kids, and that didn't seem to be something that was an anomaly to the program. That seemed to be something that happened on a regular basis for their seniors that were going away to college.
And I know at Cerner there was a student who talked about in Northland that he got hired as with a paid internship through his work that he was doing in an internship, and it was doing that while going to college at the same time.
Through Cerner.
Mm-hmm.
And can students participate in this program both their junior and senior year, or only 1 year? Is that something that they would decide?
At Northland, they did juniors and seniors, and so the group that one of the groups I was talking to some students, I asked about that, and what would happen if you did it your junior year, or what would you do your senior year? And they, what they shared was that they would just then apply for another internship, and would do an internship for half of their day, first semester and or second semester, and I guess it depends too on what other credits they might still need to fulfill for graduation, but they did open it up for juniors and seniors. And Travis, is yours just for seniors only, or do you have juniors?
We will accept juniors and seniors, but as you're getting started, if you'll notice in the Northland slide, their first year was all seniors. You kind of have to be strategic if you're a junior and get some credits out of the way to be able to allocate that time. So it's a great fit for seniors because almost all seniors have that built in where they don't need some courses for graduation. They've got graduation requirements. So I think it naturally trends towards seniors, but I do think as programs grow, you'll see more juniors want to get involved. And I think that Northland, if they have to allocate slots, a lot of times they hedge towards giving them to seniors because otherwise they'll miss out, whereas a junior still has a chance to get accepted as a senior. So it's always going to be sort of heavy with your, as a senior program.
So are you talking about this to the freshmen coming in saying, get your requirements out of the way now so you can be a part of this?
That's what I'm hearing from counselors. I can tell you, this is the softest sell of a program we've ever done. It's in the course guide, and people, a lot of times the instructors are like, well, how are we going to promote this? How are we going to promote it? I said, the counselors know who the good fit is. They will counsel them like they do with all students. And I said, it's word of mouth. So the kids come back to the high school, they start talking about it, and that's how you start finding out about it. But the counselors have told me they've had freshmen and sophomores saying, I want to do this. So let's help me plan my schedule out so that we can do this maybe next year.
If the kids are in the program and what have you, are they also available to come back and do the extracurricular activities such as sports and DECA and Stuco and any of that? Okay, so it's not as if they're just a half-day student and okay.
They're enrolled full-time.
So because they earn credit and comes back to their home school, then as long as they'll have to reach their eligibility because they have to have the 6 credits. So we give them their full load to do that.
So I guess I'd have a question for the group. Working backwards, if we're going to establish a consortium, we probably want that completed probably in January. So we would be able to know for the upcoming seniors that next year, for the course guides, maybe even sooner.
I would say even before that, yeah.
Okay, so working backwards from that, when do we need a commitment, or when will the school boards decide if they want to join the consortium? Is that an August decision? Is that?
Well, I think that'll probably be individual, every board, superintendent, do that.
As far as the drop dead date, Greg, what I'm saying, when does that need?
I would say we've heard presentations, now if we could have time in June, that would be a great time. Sooner the better.
June, like next month?
Like I said, I'm throwing it out there.
So the consortium, the agreement to join it, Greg, would just mean that you're going to come to the table, you're going to help us design that. There's no commitment yet on numbers,
No, nothing.
on students,
Correct.
on money. It's just you want to be part of the process.
We will be part of the process of developing the steering committee and then developing the board, and then from there, just the planning piece. No commitments to new financial at that point. That was decided.
Dr. Muzzy, I'll help that along. So our Board of Education will be weighing in on Thursday. So
Ours too.
if I need to lay that as a challenge before the.
What time?
Mr. Hayes, you have another question?
Yeah, you answered the question about what the boards need to do or what you need from the board, so I think we kind of covered that, but I see a huge advantage with the consortium, and the reason I say that is I think in a lot of instances, some of our businesses are reluctant to say, I will help Wentzville because all of a sudden now, if I help them, then there's gonna be Francis Howell, Zoom Wall, everybody else is gonna come, so I can't help everybody, so I'm not gonna help you. So I think by approaching them with this model, and we're all together, we're all one, I think it's gonna open up a tremendous amount of doors for us, and it'll make it so much easier for us to get these contacts and expand this program. I think when you walk in there and say, we're with the St. Charles Consortium or CAPS program, that's totally different than I'm from Francis Howell. So I think that's gonna be a huge, huge, huge for us.
I think going with that too, like Dr. DeBray said earlier, there's a huge support from the business community around this initiative. The Economic Development Center, the Workforce Development, the Chambers of Commerce in the area, the county executive, they're all behind what we're doing here. And so they're starting with a groundswell with their contacts as well.
And literally having talked to to one business person who isn't supportive initially. Now, they want to learn more, et cetera, but, I mean, again, easy as sell. You know, as Travis mentioned, it's not a hard sell.
Any other questions or closing comments?
Thank you for hosting.
Yes, thank you.
We're happy to host this first St. Charles County Board.
All right.
You know what, truly, Josh said it, I think, jokingly, but now I'm gonna say it seriously. We probably should get a picture of all this and record this. This is a big deal, that we're all together in one room. We could also promote it on our social media as our collaborative spirit.
That's great. I took a photo.
Now, we have
Do you want me to do that first?
Soups and boards.
Soups and boards.
Leaves plenty of the rest of the
Can we close the meeting and then we'll take a picture, guys? Give me one more minute.
So I did want to thank Sodexo for providing the food for us all this evening, and thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this meeting. I like to be part of history, and I think this is a good thing to move on. So with that said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. So moved. Motion made by Sandy Ferguson, seconded by Chad Lang, by roll call. Mr. Haynes?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Great, thank you.
Yeah, where are
Okay, the picture we have at the dais momentarily.
Get over here, guys.
I'll be able to say I was here. It's fun.
Is there any chance for all of it?
Take some pictures.
Take it out. Right, scrunch it.
I am recording, so.
So we can.
Oh, it's still recording?
They can still record.
See how long we stand up there.
I know saying we're like.
Getting old.
So, if you move to the side,
Exactly. Look, I got that. Look, I got that.